We are live from the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If you want to stop out here for their fall open house, 1335 Hamlin Road, Durham, North Carolina, obviously. It'll be going on for a couple more hours here today. If you can't make it out today, maybe you're afraid of getting your sugar and your melts in the rain. Mm-hmm. You can always come out tomorrow. The fall open house continues tomorrow starting at 8 with food trucks, whole bunch of really cool stuff out here in addition to the sidings and gutters and everything else that the Aluminum Company of North Carolina offers and has expertise in. With that being said, this weekend, the Panthers. I was going to go with some kind of transition there, like it rains, it pours, it's raining out, but let's just cut it off.
It when it rained, it poured this past Sunday. That's for darn sure.
They need to somehow find a way to stop the pouring rain. And the Chargers, yesterday I said we'd get into more of the X's and O's of this one today. It is an unfortunate matchup for the Panthers to be in a situation where they need to bounce back in a big way, and they happen to be facing a team that has their strengths aligning with where the Panthers are vulnerable. And the irony is, if you would have asked me a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I would have said the Chargers offense actually kind of plays well into what the Panthers does.
Yeah.
Because if you have Derrick Brown out there, maybe the best interior run stuffing defensive lineman in the league, up against a Jim Harbaugh offense that is going to run it, I would have said your strength can actually impact this game.
Yeah. And Jadeveon Clowney's known for being a good rush defender as well.
And A'Shawn Robinson, who they had up until this past Monday, when we learned that Derrick Brown was likely going to be out for the year, and then it was eventually confirmed injured reserve out for the year, I would have said the Chargers offense against the Panthers defense was a good matchup to get them on the right track.
Yeah.
But if you take Derrick Brown out of that mix, now suddenly someone like Shy Tuttle might be moved up, and then Thurman's moved up, and it's your entire vibe changes. Now I don't like that they're going up against a team that wants to run the ball a ton, because it's just going to accentuate the fact that Derrick Brown is not there.
And they've put a lot of investment, the Chargers have, in their offensive line with Joel Alt, first round pick in the top. I think it was 5th overall. Yep. And then they had Rashawn Slater, who's on the left side as a tackle. Those two dudes, not can they only pass protect, those dudes are maulers as well.
And J.K. Dobbins had a good running game in week 1, so even that kind of flipped.
Over 100 yards on 10 carries.
So 2 weeks ago, I was thinking it was going to be a non-dynamic running back group for the Chargers, trying to bash their heads into the wall that is Derrick Brown in the run-stuffing defense. Now, after just 1 week of NFL football, J.K. Dobbins looks like an explosive running back for the Chargers. Gus Edwards is a more than capable number 2 running back.
Oh, yeah.
And you lost Derrick Brown to be your run stuffer. So unfortunate timing for this one to take place. Ejiro Evero, their defensive coordinator, meaning the Panthers defensive coordinator, was asked, how does the team replace Derrick Brown? This was his answer.
Yeah, you don't replace him. So it's the next man up, and we have a lot of confidence and faith in all of the D linemen on our roster. We got some very good players there, and these guys have been working their butts off, and they're ready to go.
So there's my concern when the Chargers have the ball. My concern when the Panthers have the ball is protecting the quarterback. Because if you look at the Chargers, when healthy, by the way, and I'll put this out there, Joey Bosa was out of practice yesterday due to a back injury, limited participant yesterday, so his availability may be up in the air. They might have watched the Panthers offense last week and said, hey, if we're going to rest him, let's do it this week.
Hey, you get limited snaps this week. Don't worry about it.
But when you look at the Chargers roster, it's impossible not to see Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack at those edge rusher positions. And for a team that really struggled to protect Bryce Young last week, kind of the last thing you want to see is a team that doesn't have to bring exotic pressures, doesn't have to blitz to get pressure on the quarterback. You can do that just with Bosa, Mack, and the rest of that defensive front. So basically, the two pivot points, right? The two potential failure points. I don't know what the phrase is in like engineering, right? The two pieces that you want to reinforce the most because they're the ones where, the potential break is going to happen are interior defensive line minus Derrick Brown and your tackles your offensive tackles who are going to have to line up against potentially Bosa, likely Bosa, at least in a limited form, and Khalil Mack. Another way to put that is Shy Tuttle, Jaden Peavy, Nick Thurman on defense.
Brian Ray, those guys.
And then for at least 50% Ike Ekwonu on offense. That's an unfortunate matchup for me. If the Chargers had a dominant interior defensive line, I'd feel better with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. If they had dominant secondary, I would feel more comfortable because I would know that they could just run the ball. If they had a dominant, free safety, I would trust Bryce Young to just stay the heck away from him. Maybe. But my point is, this is not a good matchup for the Panthers. If they're going to have success, if they're going to bounce back in a way that gets them in the win column, I'd say that with a question mark, or at least keeps them in it into the second half, Ike Ekwonu and the next man up on the defensive front are going to be the ones that have to step up. Brad Idzik, of the offensive coordinator for the Panthers, was asked what was the most alarming thing that he saw out of Bryce. This was Idzik's answer.
Nothing alarming. I still take it on my shoulders too, as being the coordinator, of just making sure everyone's prepared to play fast, like we were talking about. As a group, I think we all had things that we want to do better, and we did a great job on Monday being honest and open about that. Starting with me, starting with Dave, starting with all the coaches, and then we're just applying it to week 2, and we're off and running. So it's a growing process, and the best part of the best way to grow is to have those full speed reps in a game, and then to be able to be honest about it afterwards and watching the tape.
Nothing too alarming, except there was a lot that went wrong, and we all had to own up to some things.
Yeah, being honest with yourself.
And part of that honesty is what Dave Canales said, right? The coaches took the blame for many of the sacks, except for the one that he put on Bryce. I think the offensive line should take it upon themselves to say, I don't care what they call, let's keep Bryce standing up.
I'm curious what Evero's going to do defensively, because there were a few snaps on Sunday against the Saints where Shaq Thompson lined up as an outside linebacker, opposite of Clowney, just to try and
whatever you can
give
do.
a little bit of look, which is, hey, I totally get it. They did that with Frankie Louvu a bunch last season as well. So maybe he's kind of absorbed that role. But when Derrick Brown's not in there, there's no one up front that really, as of right now, unless A'Shawn Robinson steps up, that commands a double team from the interior of the offensive line. It's going to get even more difficult on Shaq Thompson and Josie Jewell to try and get to the football and make tackles, because if offensive linemen are getting blocks to that second level, watch out.
It really is a good point. And it's more of a basketball thing than a football thing, the whole positionless. But there is something to be said for just getting your 11 best players on the field and figuring out everything else once they're out there. I know you were. I was very impressed with Trevin Wallace, their third-round pick during the preseason. If you need to move some guys around to get Shaq Thompson, Josie Jewell, and Trevin Wallace out there on the field at the same time, maybe you consider finding a way and worrying about square pegs into round holes another time. Let's just get the best, to use that analogy, the best pegs out there on the field. It's something that Evero is going to have to think about.